Okay. How do you make a hot dog stand?
How do you make a hot dog stand?
You steal its chair.
Ha ha ha! Wow, if I knew it was that easy to get into the hot dog business, I would have done this ages ago. Hello, friendos, this is Chain, welcoming you back to Chain of Commander, and it is time for the Recruitment Office visit once again. It's, August now? So I decided, because it's August, and only because it's August, I decided to bring in another one of my friends from overseas. This one's a little bit closer than the Australian we brought last time, but hey, let's just have them introduce themselves here.
Hello, mate. I am Matt from TOTALmtg. I'm a MTG YouTuber and streamer as well. And yeah, I just basically do anything from Commander, Standard, everything like that. And yeah, thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, he does a lot more varieties of formats than I do. I'm clearly just pretty much Standard. But that's how I met Matt. We met through his stream. Yeah. He invited me on, and it was a lot of fun. And I won with Taty-o-VAH.
Oh yeah,
it was a fun day.
Yeah, it was a really good day. That was a
good game. Yes. That said, Matt, what deck did you bring for us to talk about today?
So my deck today is my favourite Commander deck. It's my pet deck. It's Tatyova Benthic Druid. It's a Simic lands type deck. But when I saw Tatyova, even though it was uncommon, I thought it just had so much power as an uncommon card. And it does everything that I like to do in blue, because I'm a blue mage. But obviously we know green is the new blue. So Simic is basically a blue dream. So yeah. Tatyova is definitely my favorite commander.
Yep, Taty-o-VAH for viewers at home is Taty-o-VAH Benthic Druid, 3 green and a blue for a 3/3 legendary creature Merfolk Druid, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain a life and draw a card. Now, Liz also has a Taty-o-VAH deck, so I have a lot of experience with this deck myself, and I kind of agree. That whole Dominaria set, those uncommon commanders were... just by making legendary uncommons, they were able to make them more powerful in the vacuum that they were. So there were plenty of uncommons from that set. There were a lot of fun. Slimefoot came from that set too. He's a lot of fun.
Slimefoot, yeah.
Go ahead.
But putting him in uncommons, it just means that we get a lot more commanders to build around as well. So
exactly.
I did like that they really brought that forward and are doing a lot more going forward as well. I like that.
All right, but Taty-o-VAH, I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think this is probably the best of the uncommon commanders from that set.
Yeah.
A lot of fun, but you said you're a blue mage. What specifically about Taty-o-VAH kind of tickled your fancy?
Well, I do like drawing cards. Drawing cards is just what I absolutely love. So sometimes just drawing cards without having a wink on. I just love drawing cards. I just think it's just the best thing. Mixed it in with one of my other favourite games, which is Landfall. I do like Landfall as well. I've sort of gone from being a land destruction player, which I used to play in Modern, so I'm sort of going the other way, where just making benefits of it and hopefully making more friends and destroying land. So I like land decks, and so this was just like the perfect commander for me, because just play something, draw a card, love it.
All right, yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to be a bit happy that you're deciding to move away from your land destruction ways. I think they'll appreciate that. Now, did you play any landfall decks before Taty-o-VAH, or was Taty-o-VAH kind of your entry into the landfall?
No, Taty-o-VAH was my entry into landfall. I just think it's, for something that is so simple to do as to play a land, it's just incredibly strong. So it's, there's so many ways now to ramp, and especially in recent standard sets, they've just, ramp it's just an amazing thing, and they've just made these sort of decks stronger for me. You don't necessarily need the mana dorks and everything like that. You just play your Codimas, your cultivates, anything like that, anything that can just play lands, and if you can get in a bit, something trigger for it, whether it be a 4/4 beast, whether it's draw a card, whether it's, there's so many different effects and fun different ways to build, which is why the sort of landfall, no one can technically stop you playing a land. They can stop the effect, but if you're just playing lands, that's pretty cool, and getting certain win cons from it as well.
Yeah, and I've been told from a reliable source that almost every Magic deck plays land. So
exactly,
why not just reap the benefits of it?
Yeah. What I decided to do with my deck, because like I said, I pimped it out. Every single basic on mine is a different art as well.
Ooh.
So they're all completely, different. They're all foiled, altered arts, which was the theme for my deck. It wasn't to make it the most powerful deck in the world. It was literally to make it a beautiful deck. That is what my goal was to start with, and it's going that way now. But yeah, my basic lands, every single one of them will be, will be foil, and there will be different arts as well.
That is
just
very
keeping
cool.
the landfall love. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I ended up foiling a Simic deck myself. Mine was crew fix, but kind of the same thing. I didn't mean it for it to be good. It's Simic, so it's naturally good. I meant it for it to be pretty. So there's times a lot of my card choices about that deck is this card pretty? And if it's not, it doesn't make it.
I mean, it does mean sometimes I'm buying the same card more than once, because originally I might be, what it's like with Magic now. There's about 1 billion different arts for certain cards that come out.
So many.
But sometimes, for me, I love, if I see the art and I love it, I've swapped my SKUs probably 3 times at least already in the deck. It's gone from standard to a foil to a full art to a full art foil. It's just changed constantly. But I just have this deck that I do that with, so I don't mind. I wouldn't do it to all decks because obviously money money stops certain cards. Yeah, it will stop certain cards going in the deck, which is what happens sometimes. I don't need to proxy a Crucible of Worlds because I know how good it is. So while I'm trying to get to that card, whether it's through trades or anything like that, I literally will play a different card, and sometimes I just want to play that different card anyway because I've pulled an amazing art or foil and I just want that in my deck. Which is why I go along the route of I'm not trying to max out the power to make it the most unenjoyable deck to play against. I want people just to go, oh, that looks pretty, and it does cool things as well. That's what I like doing. It's not always just about the power.
Exactly. It's a self-expression, and sometimes you just want to look nice.
Yeah, exactly. You want to, get your camera on and you're trying to get it on spell tab and you're like, Jesus, no matter where I move it, everything's foiling off the top and you can't see it.
There's been times I draw like the top 7 of my deck and I'm like, wow, this hand's not good, but it's so pretty.
Exactly. You're like, I'm just going to keep it. I've got 1 land. I've got a Fiendorn Elves or something like that. I'll be fine. I don't need anything else because the Fiendorn Elves is a gorgeous card, or you've got some, like you say, some other really gorgeous cards. And you just you get sort of blinded by like the magpies that love the shinies. That's what it's like.
Now, I could be honest, I could go on and on just about talking about pretty cards, but we want to get to the meat and potatoes of this deck here. So tell us, give us kind of a little brief synopsis of how this deck plays out. How do you navigate a game with this deck?
So, we're using cards, sorcery cards and creatures to ramp out so much. I don't have many artifacts in there because obviously it's basically a landfall deck, so the deck is all based around land. So I'll have like a Simic Signet and a Soul Ring. I don't even run Arcane Signet in it. So in total, we actually only have 3 artifacts. The other one is Azuran Orb, which is sacrificing lands to gain life. So Crucible of Worlds obviously would work very well with this deck, but because I don't have Crucible of Worlds, I have other cards like Ravenous Excavator, can bring land cards back from the graveyards, and there's other ways. I've got Eternal Witnesses. It's just working on the basis of getting value out of the lands. Building up as quick as we can. We do, if we do ramp out quick, we can get some pretty powerful creatures out there. We do have Ulamog the Ceaseless Hungler in the deck, which is just an absolute beater. If you can get that down 3 or 4 turns early, then you should do. You're winning games. Same as putting Kozilek Butcher of Truth down there as well. So I do run a couple of Eldrazi. If I'm playing a more friendly game, I will take them out, just because. That I can get them pretty quick, but you don't always have to. You don't have to play them. But other than that, I'm doing things to get value. The deck is all about value, drawing cards, and then gradually building up over time. It's got it's discussed stuff like Scoot Swarm, so you can go wide strategy if you need to. You've got other stuff like Rampaging Baloths to make big 4/4s with that type of landfill. I do have creatures that like based around lands as well, like Multani. Just some real big beaters. Now, there's a couple of combos in the deck, but you generally don't have to do them. I do have like Retreat to Coral Helm and cards like Zendikar's Roll. So there is ways of comboing if I want. There is about, mixture of 5 cards. There's probably, 5 or 6 cards that will combo with each other. But you really decide that on the type of game you're playing. And if we're playing stronger games, that I can combo out, getting, Untold Lions or draw my deck. If I draw my deck, I do have Jace, Wielder of Mysteries in there, and Thassa's Oracle. So that is a bit, a dirty combo that's, not very well liked. I don't think Thassa's Oracle is very well liked in Commander. It's liked by me because it's a blue card. But that's just the way it is. But lands all going, like I said, we can sack lands and bring them all back with cards like Splendid Reclamation, so they all come back tapped. And then we can do a one-off win like Sylvan Awakening to turn all the lands into elemental creatures, indestructible haste, and just attack in as well. So most win cons in this deck are obviously based around the lands. We do run I'm trying to think what it is off the top. What is it? Field of the Dead. So we do run Field of the Dead, and we can search that up if we need to. Field of the Dead is a very, probably the strongest land in the deck.
Might be one of the strongest lands in Magic in general, as far as EDH is concerned in recent years.
I'm surprised it's not
so many things.
I'm looking. I am not surprised it's not been banned. I mean, that's just me personally, just because of the actual hate for it so much.
I think all it does is make zombies.
Yeah.
Like, if you think about all the things you can do in EDH, all the broken stuff you can do, especially in this color combination, but even regardless of that, all the things you can do in EDH, just making zombies can be a bit underwhelming because board clears removal. Yeah. There's plenty of actual incidental land hate in there too. Yeah. I think it's safe to keep around, mainly because I have it in several of my decks as well, and I would rather it stick.
Yeah. To me, like you say, it can be killed by multiple cards it can be killed with. There's just so many ways to deal with it. I have Scapeshift in there as well, so I can sacrifice all the lands and bring everything back, and then get all the triggers of either landfall cards, or even then get my Field of the Dead, and then start spamming out. As a late game move that can be done. The deck doesn't run many counter spells, but I run powerful counter spells.
I noticed.
Yeah, I have the counter spell, which is the best counter spell for me, actual counter spell, and that is in there because I do have one of the. I always get mixed up. Is it the Expedition ones? It's the gold and blue counter target spell. The one that come from was it the Armaket?
Oh, so the invocations. Those ones were
the invocations. Yeah,
yes.
Not Expeditions. So that was my one of my best ever pulls that was in there. But it does run 0 mana counter spells like Fierce Guardianship, Force of Will as well, which were both. One was from one of the commander sets, had such a strong card in, and one was pack pulled, the Force of Will.
Oh, nice.
So I didn't deliberately go out to put these in the deck. It's like if you pull them, you're going to play them. It's no point collecting dust in the thing. But yeah, it runs well. It doesn't. Sometimes it can be aggressive. It can be an aggressive deck. It has a little mill strategy in there. I did have 2 of the crabs in there, but now I've just got 1 ruin crab in there. I was thinking about running 2 and maybe going for a little mill strategy. But it's very hard to mill 3 players when you're playing. If you're playing 4, it's very hard.
I agree with that. There are people in my household that decided to make 2 completely separate mill decks in their life, and they try to make it work. So. It's not easy, but it's fun if you can pull it off.
It's very fun. I've got I built a Tulane mill deck, so I didn't want to go Tulane value like with card draw because I've got that with Tatyova. So I went for a Tulane mill deck, and it's terrible, but it's fun when it goes off. But yeah, this is the kind of deck that's the way it plays out. It's got early mana dorks. If we can get them down and then go into the ramp straight away. There's just a lot of value playing a lot of creatures. Psychosis Crawler for me was a new addition, which was I just love that card. As power and toughness equal to the number of cards in your hand, but whenever you draw a card, each opponent loses 1 life, and you can just keep drawing with this deck and drawing, and just basically just ping everyone. And it's just such a good card with card draw.
It is very good, especially because in Taty-O-VAH, it's sometimes hard to turn that value into an actual win condition. And Psychosis Crawler can turn it into that win condition.
This is the thing. I mean, Taty-O-VAH isn't like a top tier 1 deck. It's not. It's just all about value and drawing cards. And then if you've got the right creatures on there, it does run a lot of creatures in my version. There's a lot of other versions that run a lot less because they're going more as a combo route. But mine does run 30 creatures. So, it's very creature based. Can deal with aggro for a Simic deck just because it can amass a board state. Which is what you need to do in against a lot of decks these days, because card draw decks, control decks are fine, but not in like casual state, because you literally, once you run out of your Wraths, you basically just get attacked and beaten. But hopefully, this sort of deck stays under the radar with not so much with people that have played with me a lot because they know what it can do, but it can subtly just go on, and then all of a sudden you're dropping your Eldrazi's, you're dropping multiple tokens onto the field, and then it can just take over and win a game. And it's hard for, from experience, it's been hard for them people to sort of peg it back when you've got those sort of cards in it, especially a card like Titania, Protector of Argoth, which is just brilliant. Ends the battle, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. When a land card put in a graveyard from battlefield, which works amazing, sacking the lands. You've got Zora that can just sack it, and then you sack and just keep making 5/3s. It's just so good. It's just
sack all your lands as Zora Orb, and then Splendid Reclamation them all back, and then do it again.
It's just amazing. The synergies in the decks with lands and stuff is just one of my favorites, which is why it's my favorite deck.
No, yeah, it's fun doing things. You want to do things in your game of Magic. This list just lets you do things every turn. So, other than the Psychosis Crawler, you brought up the Eldrazi's too. Are there any other secret win conditions in the end there? Some end goals that you're shooting for?
You can. So you've got your Retreat to Collarhelm. You play with Simic Growth Chamber. And the other, you need... some of the cards, where is it? I'm trying to think of the other combo with that. Sylvan Safekeeper, I think it's sacrifice a land, target creature you control against Shroud, so you can protect stuff. But another win con, obviously, is because you're drawing so many cards, is using the Thassa's Oracle along with Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Yeah, that is... a real win con, because you will go through your deck. I've done it so many times, and I've lost a game where in response they've killed my Jace. I've literally had that. I think that's happened more than once as well. I think that's happened a couple of times. But yeah, that's me. Yeah, so that is one of the main win cons as well.
To that end, though, that win con. One card that Liz plays in her Taty-O-VAH that works incredibly nicely with that win con is Genesis Wave. And I noticed that you don't have Genesis Wave in your deck. Is there any particular reason why you don't have Genesis Wave?
I mean, it's literally, I don't have one in my collection. So there'll be certain cards like I said, Crucible of Worlds. I'd like a Burgeoning in my deck as well. Sylvan Library would be a good addition as well. And like yourself, Genesis Wave would be as well. I haven't... This deck has just been built up over time, and I've not actually, not being tight, but I've just not spent the money on, really expensive cards. It was meant to be build, first of all, out of what I've got, and then go from there. Some of those cards will be added. I mean, I'm looking to trade into, first of all, Crucible of Worlds to me would be the best addition to the deck. So that could be the next edition. But I find it hard adding certain cards. Like, I've got some cards in front of me now that I literally do want to put in there. I've got like Force of Vigor. I want to try out Abundant Harvest, Timeless Witness as well. Risen Reef, for me, I don't know how it works out. But for me, Risen Reef just didn't work out at all. And I know a lot of people play in their deck. I just didn't have that elemental phase. But
yeah,
I feel like the one thing my deck needs is maybe a couple more win cons. But it still wins as it is. It's hard to change a deck sometimes. And I've just got cards in there that, like, when I make a swap, it's really hard because I grow very attached to certain cards, and I can't swap them. It's just really hard.
I So yeah, that I can understand. Once you get a list that you like, even just like that one card change, a 1% change, nothing crazy, but it feels like the whole deck changes with it. So, outside of that, I know that trying to find room for cards can be difficult, but you kind of went over some here that you want to try in some of the older ones. Has there been any recent cards coming out that you look at from these last couple sets and think, oh, that'd be worth trying out in this deck?
Just trying to look at what I've added in. I did try. Which one was it? I don't know if I kept it in there. So I've got a lot of cards that. The recent sets are the ones I just said. Like I think Timeless Witness for 4 mana. Ends the battlefield. Return target card from your graveyard to your hand as the Eternalize for 7. Now the 7 sounds a lot, but when you're a lands deck and you're ramping it really doesn't mean a lot. And I think for 4 mana, I would like to try that. And Abundant Harvest I quite liked as well. I did like that with that print from Modern Horizons 2. I thought about trying, but I've not been too enthused about a lot of the new cards from the new sets for Tatyova itself. There's still a lot of older cards. Are going to be recent cards that have gone in there have been like Scoot Swarm and Ruin Crab and a few cards like that. One card I did add in, actually think about it, which was a new landfall card, was Tireless Provisioner, which I thought was excellent. Whenever land is battlefield, you create a food token or a treasure token. Now for this, that is it's a brilliant card. It is a card that opponents will try and kill. Sometimes they don't notice sometimes they don't notice the power of it, which is they should do, because it's a great card. Yeah,
it's essentially like Tireless Tracker and Lotus Cobra levels of power here.
Yeah, exactly. And for me, for an uncommon, it's just for Tatyova, it's perfect. Get that extra bit of mana, like I say, get those treasure tokens down or anything like that, and we can play multiple lands a turn. So it's, for me, it's just a really cool landfall decision. I mean, looking at I don't know whether landfall would come again in standard. I don't know. Doesn't look like it with the upcoming sets. I don't
know what the hope is to go back to Zendikar anytime soon, because the last set there was kind of a bit lackluster, and they didn't really explore the landfall as in depth as they had before. They focused too much on party, in my opinion. But I know it's a very popular mechanic, and I would be surprised if we don't see it again. I just think it's going to be a hot second before we do.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I would love it. I would and I wouldn't. I'd like to, I don't want to be given too many options, because then I might change the deck too much. But, a card like that was just, I saw it straight in the deck. Doesn't matter about test. I just, you just know that's going to be good. Other than that, nothing from recent sets has really stood out to me for this kind of deck, to be honest. Cards I was looking, there's some cards like Icy Tyrant of Gaia Strait that never works very well for me. I don't know why. It feels like it should always be good, and it could be like a separate commander for the deck, but I don't know. I just never get any luck there. So it's one of the cards that I'm thinking of dropping. But
really, because when that card came out, everybody's like, "Oh, it's just better Taty-O-VA. Every Taty-O-VA is going to turn into an icy deck." But
for
I just
me,
wasn't convinced.
It just never does it for me. I don't know why. I don't know. The 6 mana, I always find 6 mana. I want to be either potentially keeping up a counter spell or keeping something else up. It's different if I've got a card like Seaborn Muse down, so I can untap stuff or anything like that. But I don't know. I found it stuck in my hand in many games so far. So it's I'm always interested if anyone plays with Tatyova, if they actually have better luck with it or anything like that.
That is an excellent question for the people watching. For those of you who play Taty-O-VA, have you had any better luck with Icy? What's your opinions on it? Comments below. You want to check them out. In that vein, though, in that line of thinking here, with that card just kind of being underwhelming to you here, what have been some other cards that just didn't make the cut for you in this deck?
Cards that changed. Force of Vigor was one that just, for some reason, just was always in my hand all the time, just constantly. I don't know why, but it always was. I've dropped I had Wilderness Reclamation, that you think with Seaborn Muse, but I always felt like Wilderness Reclamation was just taken out all the time, and it just as much as it was good in standard and everything like that, it just didn't do enough for me in this. I just thought, well, I've got one, do I need two? And I always just felt that Raminot was always better because I could always recur it a lot easier if I needed to with certain cards in the deck. There's few counter spells that you got dropped, not because they were generally bad, just because I just felt like sometimes you'd need more interaction on the creatures. So I replaced, originally I might have had like 8 counter spells in total when it was going more of a controlling route. But then I was realizing, well, I need more. I need more interaction because I'm just getting beat down all the time. So if I've got more, less creatures. Any other cards? Let me say that. Risen Reef. Spoke about that one before.
Yep.
The old Risen Reef just did not do anything for me. Didn't have any, very many other elementals that could trigger it or anything like that. The ability of if it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't put the card on the battlefield, was okay, but I just felt very underwhelmed by Risen Reef. Like a 3-mana 1/1. A lot of people might disagree with me there, but it just didn't do enough. For 3 mana.
You need those elemental support to be able to get that multiple triggers off it. Otherwise, it's just an expensive coiling oracle.
Yeah, exactly. Because when you look at the 3 manas, like 3 mana creatures, Raminot Excavator does epic things. Reclamation Sage even does like Scoot Swarm. It's sort of kind of trying to compete. Tireless Tracker and Provisioner. It's now trying to compete with cards that just do a lot more. So that was pretty swiftly dropped as well. I think I did have another Eldrazi in there as well. Trying to think which one it was, but I cut down to the 2.
Yeah, you don't need too many Eldrazi.
No, because they were still good cards. But that's a few of the drops that have come in. Land base got updated when Modern Horizons 2 came out.
Okay.
That was literally from pack pools, so Prismatic Vista that I did want in the deck came into the deck, and then Verdant Catacombs as well. So there was a few other, nice lands that could come in.
Fetches, yep.
Yeah.
What would you say, when it comes to the lands, if you're playing landfall deck, you have a lot more room for utility lands that tend to run more lands than your average EDH deck. What would you say are some of the better utility lands that could be run in a Taty-OVAH deck?
Without doubt, obviously, Field of the Dead we've spoke about before. Absolutely amazing. Ghost Town is great as well because you're getting that bounce with Ghost Town, and it's not a very dear card. It's around $4, so it's not actually that bad. But you can pay 0 and return it to your hand. You can only use the ability though in another player's turn, which is it's not bad because you're generally playing against multiple players. So Ghost Town to me is a great utility one to have in there.
Fun thing about Ghost Town, I think people are starting to realize how good that one is, especially in landfall decks, because you said it was $4. This thing used to be like cents. I have just a pile of them because they were super cheap, and I bought them as part of a lot. And I looked at them like, this would be great in Taty-OVAH. You could guarantee your land drop every turn with it. It's great.
It's an amazing card. Arch of Araska, obviously, because you're always going to get the Ascend. You can keep drawing cards. I mean, it costs 5, but if you've got open mana, you can just do that. Command Beacon as well was one of the newer cards in this. You can sack it, put your commander in your hand from the command zone, which, you've got a 5 mana Planeswalker, and generally it will be targeted all the time. That reminds me of one, actually, that I did drop, and it's a very strange drop that might come back in. I did drop, the artifact protection for it. The lightning greaves and stuff like that. I did drop them. I just felt like I was always able to replay Taty-OVAH, even when he got killed a couple of times. It still was easy to play, so it was taking the space of something that I had more luck with, or needed a creature, or needed another counter spell. I felt like just putting something like that on it didn't really, it wasn't a benefit that I needed. If they want to target, you can target it. I've got 15 mana, I'll play it again. It's just, it makes no difference whatsoever.
Exactly.
Other lands, Teleria West is nice. The transmute, you can do that, because you can go.
What are you normally transmuting for?
Transmute, you can go get Ghost Town. You can go and get something like that.
Get your Zuran Orb.
Zuran Orb for 0. Just go and get that, so you can start sacking your lands. And obviously, Zuran Orb can save you in games as well. You know, they just see it, they forget it. You sack all your lands.
Hey, man, this thing was banned in Standard when it was legal in Standard back in...
Was it really?
Yeah, it was. Everybody looks at it as one of the silliest bannings, but it was good enough to be banned, so...
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think you've pretty much talked about the whole deck from top to bottom at this point. Yeah. So I think at this point, all that's left for you to do is look directly into whatever video recording element you have in front of you. I want you to stare into the souls of the viewers at home
there
and speak to them and tell them one last pitch why they should consider Tatyova Benthic Druid as their next commander.
So if you love card draw, if you're a blue mage, you just want this straight away. But even if you're not, if you just love value in your commander and you like a commander that can, you know, just basically spin off loads of different mechanics. You can have your card drawing effect, you can have landfall, there's lots of different ways you can do this. And if you just want absolute value, or if you're just a lover of Simic, you know, there are Simic lovers out there, Taty-o-VAH is the one for you. You can literally just have so much fun with it. It will be a little commander that will just sit there on the battlefield. All of a sudden, you've amassed a field. You've drawn your whole deck potentially and won that way, or you've got value just with huge creatures on the things like Eldrazi. If that sounds like fun to you, which obviously it does to me, Tatyova is definitely the commander for you.
All right. And Matt, why don't you also tell the viewers where they can find you?
Right, so you can find me, TOTALmtg, on YouTube, TOTALmtg on YouTube, on Twitch, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook page. It's just TOTALmtg everywhere. I do up to 3 to 5 videos a week on YouTube, just work related, and I stream up to 3 times a week on Twitch. Sometimes more, it just depends, obviously, work schedules. I stream Commander over Spell Table, sometimes with my good friend Shane here as well, who's definitely due to be back on again soon. And yeah, you play lots of Arena. I do mainly what I'm picking up now is budget standard, because Arena is rough, so I'm doing lots and lots of budget decks and everything like that, even zero rare decks. So, you know, I'm trying to build stuff that is available for everyone. So that is, yeah, where I'm taking the channel forward.
And I think that is a super useful and borderline necessary thing going forward, because the arena economy it's brutal sometimes, and it kind of limits the meta in general, because people get so invested in one deck, even if it's not the right deck to play anymore, they're stuck playing it. So having access to a variety of decks on the cheap, no rares, that's just
exactly. Get your dailies done with different decks, and they're not going to cost you any more to build. That's the way to go forward, because it's hard to invest if you're playing competitively into more than 1 or 2 decks, because it becomes very expensive, and you can't just go like in Commander, oh, there's a nice card, I'll go and buy that for 50 cents. You can't do that. You might have to crack 10 packs. So it's a bit different, but yeah.
Definitely different. All right. Well, Matt, thank you very much for joining me today. For you viewers at home, I will have links to all of his socials and to this deck list for you to reference at your leisure in the comments below. Well, description below. The comments, those are all yours. You better fill them with fun things to say. I'll respond to them later. And thank you all for joining me at home. Thank you, Matt, for joining me today. And
thank
to
you
all
for
of you,
inviting me.
No problem. To all of you, I'll see you guys again in the future. And this is where we can say bye.
Bye.
Us Simic bros need to stick together. Huge props for Matt for joining me for that conversation today. And also a huge prop to all of my Patreons whose names should be magically in front of my face at this moment. If you would like to have your name magically in front of my face at this time of my videos, definitely check out the Patreon, patreon.com/chainofcommander, and feel free to sign up. There's levels for all level of interest. And beyond that, you know what? If you want to subscribe to the channel, I think right over here there should be like my face or maybe the penguin's face. I'm not quite sure. It's going to be one of those two things. And over here, if you want to see more Recruitment Office, I have a playlist of all the Recruitment Office episodes, so you can check out other real Commander players talk about their decks. Thank you all for joining me today. Y'all take care.